In the lobby of IIB headquarters, Javier and Carmen were weirded out to find that so many of Phantom's followers, the women anyway, were lining up to turn themselves in.
My name is Angela Soto, and I confess to the crime of conspiring to form an unlawful militia. I relinquish myself into your custody.
Javier studied the scene and leaned in to Carmen.
This is like the Twilight Zone. So they're all just throwing in the towel because Lazaro is behind bars. I thought they believed in their holy mission, above all else. It's odd, but they are followers. Maybe they truly don't know how to be on their own.
Javier turned to Christian.
Are you checking them all thoroughly for weapons and communication devices?
Christian nodded.
Yes, sir. They're being pat down and getting the full metal detector treatment, then stripped of their civilian clothes and given jumpsuits.
Javier nodded. The scene of all of the mothers was off-putting, but he had more important things to do, like finally sit down for a face-to-face with the man who killed his brother.
We should get moving inside. The chief had us escort Phantom to an interrogation room. He's ready and waiting. How is he? Does he seem clear-headed?
Agent Lee nodded.
From the little bit that he said, he seems to be sharp. The sedative and all its side effects have left his system.
Just then, Lee remembered something.
Oh, also, he's got one of those spooky pregnant ladies sitting with him, acting as his legal representation.
Javier huffed a laugh, incredulous.
Right. You'd think he'd spring for real representation. Someone with an actual law degree, considering the decades of charges he's about to get buried beneath. Better for us if he wants to play dumb and go down easy in a legal fight.
Just then, yet another Sons of Ash woman entered the lobby in surrender.
Enough of this circus. Take us to the ringleader, Lee. All right, follow me.
Agent Lee led Carmen and Javier through a maze of hallways until they finally reached a secure hallway lined with interrogation rooms.
This is the room. Phantom's in there.
Javier and Carmen turned to each other as the weight of this moment hit them like a brick. They were about to sit face to face with their brother Leo's killer, a man who hunted their family for decades and faked his own death to continue his evil plot in the dark. Just then, Javier saw the cloud of fury fill his sister's gaze, and he knew exactly what she was feeling, because he was feeling the same.
You good? If I lunge at his neck, promise you'll hold me back? If you strangle him, the only thing I'm gonna hold back are his arms until you wring out his last breath.
Carmen smirked. Just then, they were interrupted by Chief Amy Reed.
I know he's a evil son of a bitch, but can I count on you two to refrain from the violence? Or am I gonna need to chaperone you in there?
Carmen let out a tense breath.
We'll be fine. We just want to say our piece and get a peek inside the monster's head.
Javier then added,
But if he makes one wrong move, I won't hesitate to put a bullet in his skull.
Fair enough. Go on in.
Inside the chilly, bare interrogation room was a metal table with chairs for 4. When Carmen and Javier entered, they were met by the sight of Phantom seated in chains, wearing a gray jumpsuit and a smug look of contempt. In the far back corner of the room was another one of Lazaro's young pregnant followers. She was there acting as his quote-unquote legal representation. But the way she stood against the wall, stiff at attention, made her look more like a soldier than a lawyer. The Calderons didn't sit down right away. They froze, studying the unrepentant man before them.
My. The two-headed serpent. Your existence is just further proof that your royal bloodline is a perversion that mocks the divine. A holy mother's womb was only meant to carry one heart and one soul. The royal twins are no more than living, breathing abominations. Demons spawn, birthed to ascend the throne and spread rot from on high. But I was born to save mankind. God wants you to know that I am your reckoning.
With a look of disgust, Carmen narrowed her eyes. What a waste. I thought speaking to Leo's killer might give me some form of closure. But you're just a pathetic man, aren't you? A lunatic who can't tell the difference between God's will and his own sick, confused mind. Carmen sat down and crossed her arms, feeling there was little use in trying to understand the beady-eyed man before her. Meanwhile, Javier shook his head. I don't think he's crazy at all. I think you're an egomaniac who lies to the world to feed his own God complex. God doesn't speak to you. You speak to yourself and claim it's divine intervention. And that makes you the heretic. You are the false idol, Lazaro. And we are the ones who are going to save humanity from you.
How riveting to see the arrogance your self-appointed crown instilled you with. I will soon delight in humbling you.
Those are big words from a man in chains. Tell me, how does it feel to know that your decades of plotting, of building, of scheming, all that hard work was destroyed with just one hug? You took one wrong step that lasted all of a few seconds and caused your demise. Isn't my wife brilliant?
Javier grinned with a vicious gleam in his eyes, and Phantom snarled.
She wasn't yours to take. God gave me a precious daughter to uphold my destiny. And you filthy prince, stole her from me and tainted her with your seed and rot. She is an example of what your rule will do to a nation of people. You will damn them.
Phantom sat back in sad reflection.
I had high hopes for Amelia, and that was my mistake. Demon spawn, I underestimated your ability to poison the souls around you. You got your serpentine hold on her since before I ever learned of her existence. And I should have known it was too late. Now she, like you, will have to burn.
Phantom grew quiet, then calmly added,
If I'm feeling generous, I might consider sparing my grandson by saving him from you to raise him in God's light.
Javier studied him with a wicked smile.
You really are too blinded by your own delusion to see it.
Lazaro glared at him.
To see what?
The truth. That we played you. Amelia was never yours.
I don't believe you.
My wife was the result of the genuine, loving union between Gabriela Del Rio and Luis Alvarez, the man whose life you stole decades from. He's her real father, which means my son doesn't share a drop of blood with you. They are my family. And your eagerness to tie their existence to the narrative of your self-righteous mission led you to believe a lie. That was your true downfall.
A wrathful storm brewed inside Lazaro, and he let out one threatening whisper.
When I'm free from these chains, I will end you all.
Javier placed both his hands on the table and leaned in.
Break out of your chains. I dare you. I would love an excuse to put a piece of steel right between your eyes.
Meanwhile, Felipe had returned to his estate to handle some of his own business and was working in his study when he was interrupted by a call. His lip curled up in displeasure when he saw the caller ID. It was his cousin Gonzo. The last thing he wanted to do was talk to this pest. But seeing as to how he was a pest who had inserted himself into Felipe's dealings with Phantom, he decided to answer the call, because Felipe knew the best way to deal with fools like Gonzo was to let them run their mouths until they talked themselves right off a cliff.
What do you want?
I want to know where the fuck Silas, Jojo, and Don disappeared to.
Felipe's back tensed as he mentally shifted gears to do some damage control.
What do you mean? Didn't Uncle send them on a job?
Nope. I called my dad yesterday to report on my meetings, and when I asked if he knew when Silas and them would be back from their job, he didn't know what the fuck I was talking about.
Felipe let out an annoyed exhale and shook his head. Then he sat back and gave Gonzo a performance.
Are you telling me that those three dillholes lied right to my bloody face?
Once again, looks like you failed to identify when you're being played.
If they're not on a job for Uncle, then why haven't I heard from those idiots for days? What the hell are they up to?
Could be a lot of things. Maybe they're stealing from you. Maybe they flipped on you. Maybe they just deserting. Or they might just not like you. You don't make the most pleasant company, cuz.
Felipe rolled his eyes. He really hated Gonzalo.
If that's all, I'm gonna let you go so I can investigate where Silas and his two stooges went and fucked off to.
You should know. Now that Uncle knows they lied to you and disappeared on the clan, he said he wants them found ASAP and brought directly to him, so he can fire a round of bullets into them himself.
Felipe pinched his brow. He was hoping he'd have more time to cover up the deaths of Silas and company, but thanks to Gonzo, his uncle now knew about his 3 missing men. And one thing Santos doesn't wait around long for are answers. If Felipe didn't get Gonzo out of his hair soon, he was bound to cause him even more headaches.
I'll handle it and deliver them to Uncle myself. And can I assume you'll be heading back to New York soon? Considering the man that you stupidly handed $5 million to was just arrested by the IIB. I'd give you a ride to the airport, but I find you annoying.
Gonzo chuckled, unbothered.
You talking about Phantom?
Haven't you heard? The infamous Lazaro Zamora is locked up behind bars.
Gonzo laughed.
Oh, I heard, cousin, but I also have it on good authority that he'll be free very soon.
Felipe suddenly sat up, alert.
What's that supposed to mean?
Don't your partners tell you anything? Perhaps if you have been as generous as I was and showed them some support in the form of $signs, then maybe Paloma would have also told you about their Code Red protocol.
Gonzo, what the fuck is Code Red?
Let's just say in a few minutes, the whole world is gonna find out. But I can give you a sneak preview and share what Paloma told me.
On the phone in his study, Felipe suddenly felt on edge when his cousin Gonzo named a mysterious Code Red protocol that Phantom had failed to mention to him.
Don't your partners tell you anything? Perhaps if you'd have been as generous as I was and showed them some support in the form of dollar signs, then maybe Paloma would have also told you about their Code Red protocol.
Gonzo? What the fuck is Code Red?
Let's just say, in a few minutes, the whole world's gonna find out. But I can give you a sneak preview and share what Paloma told me.
By the time Gonzo finished telling Felipe exactly what Phantom's Code Red plan entailed, Felipe's entire body went rigid with panic. Because if what Gonzo just told him was true, Carmen was deeply in danger. Felipe didn't waste another second on Gonzo.
I have business to handle.
Felipe immediately dialed Carmen, but was met with the sound of a busy signal. He tried again and again, but got the same result. He knew she was with her brother, so he quickly tried the prince next, but was met with the same busy signal.
Ah, come on. Don't bloody do this to me. Eloise!
Hearing the urgency in his voice, Eloise hurried to Felipe's study.
Yes, Mr. Fierro. Prepare my car, now. Stock it with weapons and a mask and tactical gear.
Right away, sir.
911, what's your emergency?
There's been a bomb threat at the IIB headquarters, and this ain't no joke. Tell them to evacuate the building immediately.
Are you currently inside the building?
No, but I have it on good authority that the place is about to blow.
I'm alerting the bomb squad and law enforcement now. Please remain on the line. With the phone pressed to his ear, Felipe quickly made his way to his car. Sir, it appears emergency services were actually dispatched to that same location 10 minutes ago in response to a reported building explosion. Felipe's stomach dropped, and the air felt too thick to breathe.
What do you mean? The place? It already blew up.
Yes, sir. Multiple explosions have been reported on site. Felipe's vision flashed white with panic. Phantom's Code Red had already triggered. He was too late.
I'm gonna kill that bastard myself.
Sir, may I ask how you knew? Felipe hung up and peeled out of the driveway, praying that by the time he reached IIB headquarters, he'd find Carmen was safe and sound. Or better yet, maybe she wasn't even inside when the building blew. But the fact that their phone was dead put a pit in his stomach. He was choked by dread and fear worse than when Carmen nearly drowned herself, because at least when that happened, he was by her side.
Hang in there, Dove. I'm on my way.
As Felipe's SUV careened down the street, IIB headquarters was blazing and up in smoke. But a mere 20 minutes ago, it wasn't like that at all. The status of the IIB headquarters was still normal, business as usual. And flashing back to just 30 minutes ago in an IIB interrogation room. Javier and Carmen Calderon were in the middle of their questioning of Lázaro Zamora.
Amelia was never yours.
I don't believe you.
My son doesn't share a drop of blood with you. Amelia and Max are my family, and your eagerness to tie their existence to the narrative of your self-righteous mission led you to believe a lie. That was your true downfall.
When I'm free from these chains, I will end you all.
Break out of your chains I dare you. Please, give me an excuse to put a piece of steel right between your eyes.
Phantom sat back with a menacing stare.
Why should I believe who you say is or isn't my kin? On second thought, maybe I won't burn Amelia after all, not before I take her prisoner and test whether she is of my own flesh. Perhaps when I lock her in a room until I deprogram her mind and train her of the poison that is you.
Javier tensed and leaned forward.
That's where you're wrong. You won't be laying a single hand on my family. The endless crimes piled against you will have you jailed until the day you die.
Just then, Carmen sat up and reached for a stack of files on the table.
Let's get to that. I don't want to hear this creep's voice any longer than I have to. Mr. Zamora, care to confess to killing our brother Leo and Uncle Joaquin Calderon?
Javier's jaw ticked.
I'm happy to force the words out if you can't find them.
From the corner of the room, Phantom's legal rep, another one of his pregnant female followers, stepped forward.
You cannot touch him. I will report both of you if you harm our father.
Carmen and Javier cringed to hear the woman refer to him as her father. Phantom raised a hand to his follower, telling her to fall back.
It's fine, Leanne.
He then turned to Javier.
The confidence of a prince. I suppose I'd have that confidence too if I had cheated death. Tell me, did the authorities ever figure out who bombed the Spanish consulate all those months ago? It was a riveting news story. I followed it quite closely. But they never seemed to figure out the source of the blast or how the bomb got in there. I do have a theory, though.
Phantom said with a devilish glint in his eyes. Javier's face darkened and his eyes narrowed.
And what would that be?
Obviously, the Spanish consulate has very high security at all its entrance points, not unlike a building like this one here. So the metal detectors would have made it tricky for someone to bring a bomb into the building. However, I suppose if one were to build a bomb out of plastic and C4, they could evade the metal detectors, and to hide that bomb from a physical search, one might take a voluntary female, surgically cut her belly open just above the pubic bone, and implant her with the plastic bomb before reinforcing it with surgical mesh and stitching her right back up. Once the woman has healed, I imagine the lump from the plastic bomb and the swelling would make the lady appear like just another pregnant woman. And who would suspect a pregnant woman to be a threat if she walked into the IIB headquarters? Whoops, I mean, the Spanish consulate.
Javier and Carmen suddenly turned to each other with concern, then looked over at the pregnant woman in the room with them. She was slowly inching herself back against the far back corner of the room.
Once all that's done, a simple Bluetooth-enabled cell phone could be used to detonate the bomb. Or 12.
It's his followers. The women are walking bombs.
Just then, they saw there was a phone in the woman's hand, but it was too late as she pressed detonate.
Get down.
Without hesitation, Javier and Carmen dropped to the ground as Javier flipped the metal table over in front of them to hide behind. At the same time, while chained to his chair, Phantom rocked and used his body weight to topple his seat over and drop to the floor as well. Just as all hell broke loose. The explosion rocked the interrogation room with a shockwave that threw chairs and shrapnel against the walls. Flames quickly engulfed the side of the room where the suicide bomber was standing. Thick, black smoke rose as debris fell from the ceiling like a hailstorm of tile pieces. Just then, the hissing sprinklers went off and rained in the room. Luckily, Javier and Carmen had ducked behind the heavy metal table just in time to use it as a shield against the blast. Unfortunately, Phantom had managed to position himself behind the barrier as well.
Carmen, are you okay?
Carmen's ears rang, and her head throbbed from the blast.
Fuck. Yes. You? Yeah.
Javier blinked through the sweat and haze, straining to see beyond the smoke, when suddenly, without warning, came a second explosion. Javier and Carmen ducked again. It was elsewhere in the building, but just as jarring. Then came another explosion, and another. Each explosion came from the bellies of Phantom's mothers. The amount of C4 surgically implanted inside them was small enough to keep the blasts localized, but with so many of them together in one place, they caused significant damage. As Javier's head pounded, he made out the hum of several motorcycles pulling up outside the building. They were followed by the sound of footsteps rushing into the room. Coughing from the smoke, the prince pushed himself up and squinted to see, determined to find Phantom. But just as he peered over the table, he saw that an entire section of the room's back wall was missing, with a gaping hole where the window used to be. And through that hole, 3 of Phantom's soldiers had entered. One of them was carrying bolt cutters and swiftly cut off Lazaro's chains.
He's free! Get him up! We gotta run!
Javier tensed as he saw Lazaro rise and follow his men toward the breached back wall. Out the huge gap, he could see their motorcycles were parked for their escape. Pleased, Phantom grinned maniacally as he reached the hole, ready to taste his freedom again.
Help him through! Let's go!
But suddenly, Javier's voice cut through the havoc like a blade.
Lazaro.
And when Phantom made the mistake of looking back, Javier fired his gun right at Lazaro's face. The bullet fired with devastating precision and landed right in Phantom's left eye. Lazaro fell sideways with a guttural roar, gripping his wounded eye as his body twitched in shock. But his soldiers rushed across the rubble, grabbed their fallen leader, and pulled him out through the hole. As they fled, Javier and Carmen aimed their guns and fired to stop them. But with all the falling debris and smoke, their aim was obstructed, and the men got away, taking Phantom with them.
No, damn it. He's gone.
As more fragments of the ceiling began to fall, Carmen shouted,
Javi, the ceiling's not stable. We have to move.
Together, they hurried toward the opening Phantom used for his escape, but before they reached it, a flaming support beam collapsed right in front of them, blocking the way out. Javier grabbed Carmen and headed back for the main door, but another blast went off right outside it in the hallway, and their exit door caught fire. Flames licked at the frame, and the door handle glowed hot red.
The door is cooked. We can't get out that way either.
Carmen cursed under her breath, scanning for any other possible exit.
Shit. Well, we can't just sit here like pieces of charcoal.
Just then, Next to the door, an axe started to chop through from the other side of the drywall, and the chopping didn't stop until it bore a hole through the wall. Soon, a heavy boot began to kick through the drywall as well, forming a hole big enough for a body. Just then, the dark figure with the axe stepped through the hole. He was clad in all black tactical gear, and a face mask hid his identity. Javier tensed, wondering if this man was a threat or here to help. That is, until the man's unmistakable Irish lilt cut through the room.
Are you two waiting until you get a crispy cooking? Or do you want out of this barbecue?
Carmen's breath hitched the second she heard that voice. She'd recognized that sass amid a crowd of hundreds. Oh my God, Fee. She ran to him, and he helped pull her through the gap in the wall as Javier followed. Together, they escaped into the hallway, just as the ceiling collapsed behind them. Carmen and Javier followed Felipe through the burning corridors of the IIB headquarters. Smoke curled through the halls, and the overhead emergency lights flickered on and off. Firefighters moved around them like shadows, their boots splashing through puddles as they shouted orders and dragged hoses across the floors. As they moved toward the lobby, they passed the wreckage left behind by the mothers of the Sons of Ash. Dozens of the suicide bombers were littered along the ground. These followers of Phantom were now nothing but lifeless weapons, used and discarded by Lázaro Zamora. Carmen frowned at the sight of the dead women who were all victims of Phantom's twisted ideology. Felipe looked back and saw Carmen eyeing the bodies.
Sorry, Dove. I found out a bit too late that this is what Phantom does to the women in his group who are infertile or don't want to conceive for him. If they can't give him babies for his army, he has a surgeon fill their bellies with C4.
He's even sicker than I thought.
They were his emergency exit plan. The sad part is they all volunteered to do it.
Javier gritted his teeth.
They're not volunteers. They're troubled women whose minds have been manipulated by a sick man.
Javier kept his eyes locked forward and saw the front of the building approaching. When the three reached the entrance, the lobby's glass doors were shattered, but the structure itself had held on, though not by much. Outside in the parking lot, emergency crews and first responders helped the crowd and worked to reinforce what they could. It was unclear whether the building would survive or implode and crumble to the ground. Carmen, Javier, and Felipe walked away from the building over to a patch of grass removed from the chaos. They were breathless and singed at the edges, but alive. Felipe immediately approached Carmen and grabbed her shoulders, then scanned her face, arms, and body for blood, burns, or anything broken.
I'm okay, Fee. My head's just ringing like hell from the explosion.
Felipe kept his mask on to conceal his identity around Carmen's coworkers, but she heard him release a tense exhale through his nose.
When the 911 operator told me the building had blown, my fucking heart lodged in my throat like a rock.
He then glanced around at the flashing red and blue lights and furrowed his brow.
I'd kiss your face off right now if we weren't surrounded by an army of IIB agents. And your brother.
Javier saw the two together and stepped away, not wanting to be a third wheel. Carmen chuckled and squeezed Felipe's hand.
Thanks for coming to my rescue. I owe you one big hero's kiss.
Felipe smirked.
No take-backs now that you've said it. And I never forget to collect.
Just then, he realized they were getting too close out in public and backed up a step.
I should go wait in the car before someone realizes Nightblade just strolled through the front lines.
Carmen gave a tight nod.
I'll come find you in a few.
As Felipe crossed the street, and as he eyed the blazing building, A sudden thought occurred to him, and he dialed Eloise.
How is she? Oh, she is whole. I got to her in time. But listen, Eloise, I need you to follow my instructions closely and quickly. Come to meet me, a block out from the IIB headquarters. But first, you're gonna stop by the mortuary and pick up Silas, Dawn, and Jojo's bodies. I've cooked up a sneaky little plan to get rid of him. But we have to act fast. There's not much time.
Copy that. I'll grab the bodies right away.
Meanwhile, back by the parking lot, Agent Christian Lee spotted Carmen from across the way and ran toward her. His relief was palpable.
Jesus, boss. I knew you were in that room with him and I was so worried. I thought...
He shook his head, swallowing hard.
I'm so glad you're alive.
Carmen gave him a soft grin, her face still streaked with ash.
It was close, but we made it out with some luck and a little help.
Chief Amy Reed strode over next.
This is an absolute shit show. 11 fucking suicide bombers confirmed so far. All of them coordinated and positioned themselves near key structural points before they went boom. Support beams, hallway intersections, load-bearing walls. They wanted to damage the integrity of the building so their friends on the outside could infiltrate and set Phantom and the others free.
Javier overheard the discussion and joined in.
It worked. We saw Phantom flee through a hole in the back wall of the interrogation room. Please tell me your agents or my guards intercepted him. Did he get away? Or did you stop him? We saw Phantom flee through a hole in the back of the wall of the interrogation room. Please tell me your agents or my guards intercepted him. Did he get away? Or did we stop him?
Amy exhaled sharply, visibly frustrated.
Unfortunately, he did escape. He took advantage of the chaos he caused and timed it perfectly. While all our capable guards and officers swarmed the building to evacuate civilians, the Sons of Ash soldiers slipped in to retrieve their guy. They came on motorcycles, grabbed Phantom and Isaiah, then zipped through traffic in alleyways so fast they disappeared before anyone could go after them. It was a fucking shit show.
Javier shook his head as he stepped away, raking a hand through his hair. He turned back slowly, his voice low but charged with fury.
I knew it was too good to be true. As long as Lazaro Zamora is still breathing, the rest of us will never be safe.
Carmen crossed her arms tightly.
Brother, did you forget you shot a bullet through his eye? Chances are he won't survive. If there's any fairness in the universe, Phantom won't make it through the night.
Javier nodded, but found it hard to have faith.
If there was fairness in the universe, Leo wouldn't have died at the hands of that monster. So I won't be satisfied until I see his dead body cold at my feet.
Agent Lee stepped closer and bounced his eyes between them.
So, what now?
Javier squared his shoulders.
You're the experts. But I say first we put a call out to every hospital, every urgent care center, every plastic surgeon and vet tech within a 50-mile radius of here. If any of them spot a bastard walk-in needing treatment for a bullet to the eye, I want to know immediately.
Carmen's gaze narrowed.
He's not going to risk going anywhere official. He's likely to hide out somewhere and cauterize the wound himself before he can get it safely treated.
Javier nodded grimly.
I know, but on the off chance he's desperate enough to go to a real doctor for care, we should be ready.
Agent Lee glanced back at the smoking shell of the IIB headquarters, then out to the horizon and muttered under his breath.
If I were Lazaro Zamora and I had a slugger buried in my skull, where would I go?
Meanwhile, in an apartment 25 minutes away from the IIB headquarters, Vera hummed softly to herself as she fastened the clasp on her hospital ID badge. She had to report to her shift soon, and with Sunny at school, the apartment felt calm for once. But that peace was suddenly interrupted by a sudden banging at her door. The urgent sound made her heart race as Vera crept to the door and peered through the peephole, then screamed, "Oh my God, Michael!" Outside her door, she saw 4 men, and one of them was slumped, covered in blood, and being held up by the others. Despite the gore, Vera recognized the face of the injured man. It was her charming doctor, Michael Blanco. Lazaro was weak but conscious and not able to speak much. Worried, Vera yanked the door open in a panic. "What on earth happened to him? Is he okay?" But before she could even take a breath, the Sons of Ash forced themselves into her apartment, shut the door, and trained their guns on her. "Oh, don't shoot, please!" Without hesitation, one soldier forcefully confiscated Vera's cell phone, while the other ripped her landline phone clean off the kitchen wall, cords and all. It was clear Lazaro was still alive, but he was weak from the shot to the head and fighting to hold on. Isaiah stepped forward on his behalf, cold and sharp.
He took a bullet to the eye and instructed us to bring him here. He said you'd know what to do. So, we need you to treat him fast, and the best you can.
Vera recoiled, her back hitting the wall. I don't understand what's going on. Who are you people? Why do you have him?" She stuttered, confused as to why the man she knew as Dr. Blanco was in her kitchen, bleeding from a gunshot, and surrounded by men who were holding her at gunpoint. Isaiah's tone was flat.
That's not your concern. Get to work. And if the boss wants to answer your questions once you're done, he can do so, if he chooses.
She looked at the barely conscious Lazaro. His breathing was ragged, and his skin was pallid from blood loss. Her voice cracked. I'm not a surgeon. I'm a nurse. He needs a surgeon, a real doctor like him."
No hospitals,
Isaiah cut in.
That's not an option. He specifically told us to bring him to you. You'd better get moving and do your best. Unless you want him to die on your kitchen table.
They pointed their guns at her face again, and Vera raised her hands. "Oh, please don't kill me. I have a daughter. I'll do what you want, or I'll try. Just give me a second to get my supplies from the other room." She pointed down the hall, forcing herself to breathe. "Put him in the bedroom, on the bed. I'll work on him there." Isaiah nodded, and the 2 soldiers lifted Lazaro's limp frame off their shoulders and carried him toward the back. One of the men kept an eye on her as Vera moved down the hallway. Her pulse raced and heart pounded as she made her way to the linen closet of her small apartment. Vera crouched inside the closet and rummaged through it with frantic fingers. She yanked open a drawer and snatched up her old trauma bag, fumbling to shove in bottles of antiseptic, sterile gauze, surgical tape, forceps, and any painkillers she had. She stared down at the medical bag in her shaking hands and willed them to stop trembling, composing herself. In her bedroom, phantom soldiers gently laid his body on Vera's bed as Vera propped up her makeup mirror on the nightstand and adjusted its angle to use its bright light to illuminate the damage better. Isaiah stood beside her and watched her carefully with his gun resting at his side.
How does it look?
He asked. Vera stared at the bloodied wreck of the man's left eye socket and exhaled. He was lucky. Well, sort of. The bad news is that the damage to the left eye itself is too extreme for repair. There's no saving that eye. It's gone.
I'm sorry. Isaiah's jaw flexed.
Is there any good news?
She pointed to Lazaro's temple.
From what I can tell, though it's hard without proper x-rays and exams, it looked like the bullet had a clean, straight exit through the eye and out of his temporal region. It didn't penetrate the orbital bone or skull, which means no trauma was caused to the brain. Apart from the loss of the eye, this is the best-case scenario.
Isaiah glanced at his half-conscious father, then back at her.
What can you do for him?
I can give him some for the pain, clean the wound, and do a temporary patch-up job to stop bleeding.
She pulled out a bottle of antiseptic and a roll of gauze.
But he'll need surgery to properly remove the eye and seal it all up. He needs to see a specialist, not a nurse.
Understood. How long before he'll be up and moving again?
She shrugged.
Hard to say. 12 hours? That's just a guess. Maybe less if he handles pain well, but he'll need to move slow.
Thank you, Vera,
he said, then leaned in closer.
Do what you can, but if you even think about finding a way to call for help or try any funny business, I'll shoot you. Then I'll find your daughter and shoot her too.
Vera's spine stiffened.
That won't be necessary. I'll do the job so we both can be done with this and get you all out of here.
At that moment, Vera thanked God that Sonny was at school and not there to get tied up in all of this. Now she prayed that she could get these men with guns out of her home before her daughter's school day came to an end. She snapped on her gloves to get started. She then gently began to swab the edges of Lazaro's wound before glancing up at Isaiah to ask.
His name isn't really Dr. Michael Blanco, is it?
She looked back down at Phantom's still face, pale beneath all the blood and soot.
And my guess is he isn't any kind of doctor at all. His name isn't really Dr. Michael Blanco, is it? And my guess is he isn't any kind of doctor at all.
Isaiah stood close by, arms crossed, his gun still hanging at his side.
Like we said before, once the boss is better, he'll tell you what he wants you to know.
She didn't respond. Instead, she focused on cleaning the rest of the area around Lazaro's eye, carefully applying antiseptic. She wondered if he was fully unconscious, since he didn't flinch as she dressed the wound. He lay still, but his chest rose and fell with each labored breath. Just then, as she finished and turned to get up, Lazaro suddenly locked his fingers around her wrist. She gasped and looked down. Phantom's remaining eye was open. His strength had returned, and there was something new in his gaze. Calm, composure, and a quiet, terrifying focus.
Thank you for your assistance,
he said, his voice rough.
And I apologize if my men frightened you.
Vera blinked, caught off guard by his civility.
How are your pain levels? Would you like some painkillers?
He nodded once, and she helped him take them, crushing 2 pills into a drink, then tipping it to his lips. Then she handed him 2 large antibiotic capsules.
These are for infection, especially since the eye hasn't been properly treated. You need to have that eye removed surgically, or you're gonna lose more than your vision.
Lazaro pushed himself upright, slow and deliberate, and turned to Isaiah.
Leave the room,
he said. Isaiah frowned.
But you're injured, Father.
Leave us.
Phantom snapped.
I want privacy.
Isaiah nodded, then handed Lazaro a gun for protection. The men then filed out without another word, and the room fell silent, save for the faint hum of city life outside. Phantom sat, eye patched, skin pale, but pulse steady. He was free, but now impaired thanks to that unholy Prince Javier. He took in the scene around him: Vera's bedroom, the clean sheets beneath him, and the nightstand lamp casting a soft glow. Meanwhile, Vera wasn't sure what to think of him. Part of her still felt a fondness and concern for the doctor she went on a date with, but the other part of her knew he was not that man. "What happened to you?" she asked. He held her gaze for a long time, then he said quietly,
"This was my punishment, administered by God, for failing to see that I was chasing the wrong answer."
Her brow creased.
You think God did this to you?
He nodded slowly.
It's okay. God also saved me. He spared my life and gave me a second chance to complete my mission. So this time around, I won't fail.
There was a gravity to his voice that made her stomach turn.
What's your mission?
She asked carefully. He tilted his head, studying her like she was a child who'd asked a question too soon.
You're not ready to hear it.
Vera took a step back.
I don't like this. I don't know who you are, and I really don't like these men with guns in my home.
Lazaro considered this, then calmly called out,
Isaiah.
Isaiah reappeared instantly, along with the other two Sons of Ash soldiers.
Yes, Father?
I need you to leave.
Isaiah seemed confused.
Why? You're in a weakened state. It's not safe.
Don't question me. Go and find me a surgeon. Someone we can bribe or scare into silently removing this dead eye properly. I want this useless thing out of me before sunset.
Isaiah hesitated.
But
now, Isaiah. It's fine. I've got a gun, and I'm well enough to handle the nurse on my own.
Isaiah relented, then gave Lazaro a new cell phone to use, since the IIB took Lazaro's away when he was detained. He also gave him Vera's cell, which they had confiscated from her so she couldn't call for help.
we'll be a phone call away if you need us,
he said. Then the soldiers exited the apartment and the front door slammed shut. Phantom sat up straighter, his ruined eye concealed beneath gauze, but his remaining one burned with curiosity as he watched Vera.
You seem surprisingly calm,
he said, voice low and deliberate.
Most women would have fallen to pieces by now with so many armed men in their home and blood on their carpet.
Vera crossed her arms and met his gaze head on.
I've dealt with my fair share of bad men in my life. Some connected to me by blood, others by my terrible taste when it comes to dating.
She tilted her head.
Case in point, you.
That earned a glimmer of a smirk from him.
Touché.
Then, without warning, he sobered. His tone shifted.
Where's your daughter?
The air in the room tightened. Vera's shoulders stiffened. He grew stern. His voice dropped to a threatening hush.
Don't lie to me. I will know.
Sonny is at school,
Vera replied quickly. He looked down at the burner phone Isaiah had given him and tapped it against his palm.
Would you like to call someone? Have a friend pick her up? Seeing as how your hands are a bit busy with company at the moment.
Vera swallowed hard, not wanting her daughter to have to come home to these men either.
Yes, please.
She reached forward instinctively, but he yanked the phone back.
Not so fast,
Lazaro said coolly.
I'll be the one dialing.
He held the screen out to her.
Who should I call?
Pull up a contact for Amelia. His jaw clenched. It stung to hear the name of the daughter who just betrayed him, but he was glad to hear Vera's tie to the Calderons was that close. He pulled out Amelia's contact.
Amelia Calderon,
he repeated softly, a cruel smile tugging at his mouth. He pressed the speakerphone icon and leveled the gun squarely at Vera's chest, the muzzle unwavering.
One wrong word, and I won't hesitate to shoot you,
he warned.
Understood?
Meanwhile, over at the villa, Amelia had been ordered by her husband to have one full day of bed rest since yesterday's ordeal when she passed out in broad daylight and then later learned that she was carrying not one, but 2 babies. He'd grown even more protective of her than he already was. Javier had joked that he had Victor look into building a bulletproof bubble that they could keep her in, and though she laughed at it, she knew he'd put her in one if he could. So he made her promise to stay in bed today. But since Phantom escaped about 40 minutes ago, her time in bed was anything but restful. Things were tense in the villa, and security had now tripled. Just then, while in bed, Amelia's phone began to ring. Amelia snatched it up. Vera? She answered, surprised.
Hey, Amelia. I just wanted to give you a quick heads up.
Vera adopted a chipper tone as Phantom warned her to be convincing.
I got pulled into an emergency case at work. Total mess. It's gonna keep me here late.
Vera went on.
I was wondering, are the guards taking Max home from school this afternoon? If so, could I ask you for a huge favor? Would you mind if Sonny came home with you guys? Maybe spend the night.
Amelia felt bad that Max had to experience 2 back-to-back traumatic events, Celine's kidnapping of his father and the sudden evacuation at Treasure Cove Park after his mother was abducted. Being able to provide Max with a bit of normalcy, something like having a good friend sleepover, sounded great to her. Yeah, Vera, can you give me just a minute? Let me see if I can make it work.
Of course. Thank you so much, Amelia.
Amelia looked over at her phone and typed out a quick message to Javier. Vera needs us to take Sonny for the night. That okay? Within seconds, a reply blinked onto her screen.
Sounds fine. Might be good for Max.
Amelia smiled, then brought the phone back to her ear. All good, she told Vera. I'd be happy to host a sleepover for Sonny at the villa today. And I'm sure Max will love that. He's been through a lot recently.
You're a lifesaver. I'll call the school and let them know Sonny's leaving with Max's driver. Thank you.
They hung up. Back in Vera's bedroom, Phantom hit end on the call.
How nice to have such sweet friends that you can rely on in an emergency. The 2 of you must be close.
Meanwhile, outside the IIB headquarters, smoke continued to curl into the sky as firefighters worked to put out stubborn hotspots. Medics and agents bustled across the pavement, helping soot-covered survivors, making sure everyone who needed to get out of the building made it out safely. In the parking lot, Javier stood near the edge of the triage zone, his jaw tight as he scanned the devastation. Then he turned to Carmen, who had just finished speaking with Chief Amy Reed.
I want to pull the task force together now. We regroup immediately. There's no time to waste.
He jerked his chin toward Felipe's black SUV idling at the far end of the block.
What's his deal? Is he coming? Or is he sticking to his whole lone wolf thing?
Carmen let out a weary sigh. Not sure. I'll go check. She walked to Felipe's car and slid into the passenger seat. Felipe sat behind the wheel, hands loose on the steering wheel.
Hey.
Hey, yourself?
The Royal Murders Task Force is calling an emergency meeting. Javier wants us to regroup now. You want to come, or are you out?
A block away from the IIB's active emergency site, Carmen hopped into Felipe's SUV where he'd been discreetly waiting nearby.
Hey.
Hey, yourself?
The Royal Murders Task Force is calling an emergency meeting. Javier wants us to regroup now. You want to come, or are you out?
Felipe thought for a minute as he checked his phone for any updates from Eloise. Meanwhile, Carmen studied him. His cheeks were pink and smudged with soot, hair sweaty and tousled from saving the day, and a toothpick bobbed lazily between his lips. The sight of him made her itch to kiss him, but she forced herself to keep her mind on task.
Fee, are you coming to the meeting?
I'm afraid I have a pressing matter to take care of, Dove. But, alright, I can come by afterward, on one condition. That we hold the meeting somewhere private where outside eyes won't spot me fraternizing with the quote-unquote enemy.
Carmen nodded.
Of course. I'll tell my brother. We can meet at his villa again.
She then hesitated to ask, but did it anyway.
What's this pressing matter about?
Felipe's jaw ticked.
Just a bit of cleanup I have to finish on the Silas incident.
Her eyes narrowed.
Do I want to know?
Probably not,
he muttered, then added casually.
But tell me, where does your moral compass lie when it comes to committing forgery?
Carmen's brow shot up.
Why do you ask?
I need a few IIB official-looking documents drafted up. Ones that look like the kind of contracts that rats sign when they agree to turn informant. I need them by tonight, and I need them to look believable.
Carmen exhaled.
If it'll help save your ass, my moral compass can be bendable. For a touch of forgery. I owe you one anyway. After today's save.
Did you forget I also saved you from drowning yesterday? So technically, you owe me too.
Felipe winked and held up 2 fingers. Carmen tightened her gaze on him.
You know, it's not very heroic to keep track of rescues and expect payment after.
Felipe smirked.
Well, if I didn't, I wouldn't be me, would I?
She grinned and shook her head as she reached for the door handle.
See you at the meeting.
But before she could open the car door, Felipe caught her hand and pulled her back toward him, his brow dark and serious.
Don't make me do it again.
Caught off guard by his sudden intensity, she asked,
What?
Rescue you. Don't get me wrong, I'll do it every time. As much as it takes to keep you breathing and safe. But the way I felt today, when I thought I might have lost you forever, that was a panic like one I've never felt. And as I said, you did that to me twice in the last 2 days. So, have some mercy on my rotten heart and keep yourself out of harm's way, will ya?
Carmen leaned in and kissed him softly.
The feeling's mutual. I don't want to lose you either.
And with that, Carmen hopped out of the car and started to walk away. But just then, Felipe lowered the car window and called out to her.
Agent!
Carmen spun back around to see him holding something out the window. It was a small blue Nokia cell phone, and the familiar sight of it made her breath catch in her throat. She hadn't seen that phone in years, 7 to be exact, but she would recognize it anywhere. Since she'd known Felipe, he'd always used burner phones to avoid being traced, tossing them away weekly like candy wrappers. But this one was different. This phone was for Luna, and Luna alone. Back when they were in love, before the betrayal and the bloodshed, he had bought that clunky little brick just for her. He wanted her to have a number she could call, day or night, to reach him no matter what. And then, when everything fell apart, that line had gone dark. She assumed he'd destroyed it, along with everything else that reminded him of Luna. But now here it was, getting a second chance. Just like them. Felipe waved the device at her.
If you need me, you know the number.
She smiled. She did, in fact, still know that number by heart. Just then, Carmen felt a surge of something run through her. Hope. It was a dangerous feeling in her line of work, but the sudden appearance of the Nokia filled her heart with it. She knew Felipe was mad about her, but this was different. This was a sign that perhaps she was finally earning back what she feared she'd lost forever. His trust. Just then, Carmen jogged back toward a huddle of agents in the IIB parking lot. There, Javier stood close by Chief Amy Reed and Agent Lee. The three of them were locked onto the screen of Leo's laptop as his fingers tapped the keyboard impatiently, scrubbing through blurry CCTV footage at triple speed.
So far, this is all the footage we've collected from every street camera and CCTV in the area,
Reed reported to them.
We're trying to pinpoint where Phantom and his men went. We have them leaving the premises on 3 motorcycles. Here they are.
On-screen grainy video showed 3 masked figures weaving down a back alley on motorcycles, veering away from major roads and ducking through narrow corridors behind shops and industrial buildings.
But then, right here, we lost them, Agent Lee said, frowning. Last visual is here as they enter the parking garage at a shopping mall.
Javier leaned in closer.
Doesn't the mall garage have security cams?
Lee pressed his lips into a line.
They do, but it appears someone spray painted all the lenses over just a couple of hours before the escape. Every camera in the structure was hit.
Carmen swore under her breath.
And they ditched the bikes in the garage?
Lee nodded.
Looks like it. Then they switched to a new vehicle, but we got hundreds of cars going in and out of this place, so we haven't been able to ID which one's theirs.
Carmen furrowed her brow.
So that's it. We lose them after the mall? No idea where they went from there. Unfortunately, no. After that, it's as if they vanished.
Javier's voice cut through, sharp and low.
Still no pings from any hospital or urgent care centers with a male walk-in with a bullet to the eye?
Chief Reed shook her head.
Nothing yet. We've got alerts out across 2 counties. So far, silence. Keep us updated,
Javier said firmly.
If anything new comes in, I want to know the second it happens.
Shortly after, Javier and Carmen left the IIB to gather the task force at the villa. Moments later, Felipe Fierro relocated his SUV a couple blocks further out from the IIB building chaos. Soon, a matte black van crept up the quiet side street and parked directly in front of Felipe's SUV. The back door to the van slid open with a mechanical clunk, and Eloise stepped out, her face with a calm but focused determination.
Hello, Mr. Fierro.
Felipe rolled up his sleeves and peered inside the van.
Did you bring everything I requested?
Eloise nodded.
2 firefighter suits, 2 wheelbarrows, and 3 defrosting dead bodies.
Felipe grinned like a man who'd just been handed a birthday cake.
Excellent. Let's finish this cleanup job once and for all, eh?
Felipe and Eloise climbed into the back of the van and changed into full bodysuits and masks that were identical to what the firefighters were wearing on site. Eloise cinched her gloves and glanced at him.
All right, Mr. Fierro. What next?
Felipe tucked a Glock inside his fire suit, just in case, and turned toward the wheelbarrows.
Well, Eloise, Currently, there's a dozen emergency workers running back and forth from the explosion site with wheelbarrows to clear all the fallen rubble. But you and I...
Felipe gripped the handles of his own wheelbarrow. Inside it were Silas and Jojo's dead bodies, curled beneath a tarp.
We're gonna head over with our wheelbarrows as well. But instead of using them to remove junk, we're gonna wheel in 3 dead gangsters and deposit them in a spot where they can get nice and barbecued until they are charred. Shall we?
Moments later, in the lobby of the IIB headquarters, Felipe and his newly minted number 2, Eloise, strode confidently through the chaos of the active emergency site. They wore full-body fire rescue suits with masks to conceal their identities, and their gloved hands gripped the handles of 2 rolling wheelbarrows, each one draped with a thick tarp. Beneath those tarps were corpses still dewy from defrosting. They were the dead bodies of 3 Fierro clan members, one of whom was Felipe's former number 2, Silas Crow. They moved fast but purposeful, blending into the chaos as fire crews darted past them with hoses, stretchers, and crates of emergency gear. The lobby reeked of scorched plastic and ozone. Now, they just had to find the perfect spot to dump the bodies amid the blazing wreckage. Someplace good and fiery, somewhere destructive enough to render 3 bodies legally dead. Just then, the fire chief stomped past them, soaked in sweat and soot, barking into a megaphone.
The conditions of the east corner of the 2nd floor are unstable. Avoid if possible until the USAR teams arrive.
USAR stood for Urban Search and Rescue, an emergency response team trained to locate, extricate, and provide medical aid to victims trapped in confined spaces or collapsed structures. Typically, after events like earthquakes or other structural disasters, building collapses, or bombings like this one. Felipe's head turned beneath his mask, and he leaned toward Eloise, voiced low and dry.
Sounds like the east corner of the 2nd floor is just the kind of hellhole we're looking for.
Felipe and Eloise's climb up the stairway to the 2nd floor with their heavy wheelbarrows was a bit grueling. Smoke thickened with each step, and temperatures soared beyond bearable levels. Yet Felipe and Eloise pressed on, their wheelbarrows straining under the weight of 3 dead men. Once they reached the top of the stairs, they quickly made their way to the east wing, which was, in fact, unstable. There, a fire was raging on, and the ceiling and surrounding columns were crumbling and groaning, barely holding on. The walls buckled, ceiling tiles dangled like loose teeth, and support columns wavered as if moments from giving way. The blaze snapped at them like a feral beast. Felipe and Eloise scanned the ruined corridor. There were no firefighters or emergency crews in sight, just them and the roaring inferno. Once they were certain they were alone, they tipped the first wheelbarrow, let the tarp slide off, and dumped Dawn's body in the middle of a fiery hotspot. Then, they deposited Jojo the same. And last, Silas, the body of Nightblade's former second-in-command. Felipe dragged the bodies closer to the edge of a collapsed beam where they could catch fire the best.
Goodbye, Silas. Sorry it had to end like this. But she was my bottom line, and you crossed it. May you and our brothers find peace in the afterlife. And let this be a lesson to never harm what's mine.
Just then, Felipe heard a loud crack overhead. Felipe dove back just in time, landing hard on his side as a searing beam slammed into the floor inches from his hand, embers bursting like fireworks.
Mr. Fierro, are you alright? Shit. Well, that was a close one.
With the collapse of the beam, the fire raged fast. Within seconds, the 3 bodies were engulfed in flames and began to blacken. In minutes, the fire would wipe the slate clean. And by the time the bodies were discovered, these flames would have eradicated the evidence of their original cause of death: 2 gunshot wounds and 1 blunt force head trauma. Soon, they would just look like 3 gangsters who were working as informant rats for the IIB at the wrong place and the wrong time. Felipe turned to Eloise, gave her hand a firm shake.
Nicely done,
he muttered through the mask, but there was no time to linger, and they swiftly exited the premises. Meanwhile, over at the prince's villa, things were calmer, almost peaceful, if you didn't count the increase in heavily armed guards patrolling the perimeter. As the school day had finally ended, Max and Sunny arrived home and excitedly bounded up the stairs into Max's bedroom, giggling with backpacks bouncing.
Race you to the top. No way, I'm the fastest.
Their impromptu sleepover was kicked off with snacks and juice boxes that Amelia stationed neatly at Max's desk. Amelia then gave them strict instructions. Homework first. Then, and only then, can there be any supernova battles. Got it? Solar Slayer and Fierce Falcon?
Yes, Captain Big Star. No battles until homework is done.
Sunny grabbed a pencil, then paused and asked,
Miss Amelia, why are there, way more guards outside the villa than before?
Amelia glanced out the window and hesitated before responding. Well, Sunny, it's for security, she said carefully. Sometimes there are some strange and crazy people in the world who don't like princes and princesses, so we need extra protection to keep our family safe. Hearing this, Sunny's face scrunched up, deep thought. Then, with sudden resolve, she waddled over to the little corner shelf where she'd left her piggy bank the day she gave it to Max, intending for it to be a dowry of sorts. She picked the heavy ceramic object up and marched over to Amelia, presenting it with both hands. Amelia blinked. "What's all this?" she asked, both amused and curious. Sunny's voice rang with purpose.
This is all my money in the world. Everything that I've ever saved. And I gave it to Max because I want to buy him.
Amelia stifled a laugh, unsure she understood what Sunny meant by that. Sunny, sweetheart, you want to buy Max? Hearing this, Max shrank, embarrassed, and buried his face in his arms at his desk. Sunny nodded fiercely.
I gave him my piggy bank so I could marry him. If you and Prince Javier let me be his princess, I can move back into the villa and promise to be his bodyguard. I'll protect him from all the bad people, just like I do in the game. No one will ever hurt him.
Amelia gently crouched beside her, starting to understand the situation. Oh, so this money is payment? So you can marry Max? Sunny nodded again.
Yes, ma'am, but it's not enough. I can sell more gumballs.
Max made a soft, defeated noise in the corner. Amelia smiled warmly, brushing a strand of hair behind Sunny's ear. That's very brave and thoughtful of you. Max is lucky to have a friend like you who wants to protect him. But marriage doesn't really work that way. Sunny's shoulders sagged. You don't need to give anyone money to be someone's princess, Amelia explained softly. When you're both grown up, if you're still the best of friends and still want to get married, that's a decision you and Max can make. But right now, it's more important to just be really good friends who have fun, and friends can still protect each other. Okay? Sunny considered this, then nodded solemnly.
Okay,
she said, setting the piggy bank down again.
I'll still protect you for free, Maxie. For friendship.
Amelia snuck a glance at her bashful son who was hiding his face, and she smiled to herself. Moments later, the villa's study filled with heavy footsteps and an even heavier tension. Javier returned home and was met there by Victor, Carmen, Octavio, and Nadia. The mood was urgent. Off the heels of Phantom's explosive escape, they were gathering for an emergency Royal Task Force meeting, one with no room for half measures. Javier stood at the head of the room, his jaw set.
Thank you for gathering so quickly,
He began.
Yesterday, thanks to Amelia's bravery and the swift actions of those working with us, we were able to catch Phantom, and that was a huge win. We pushed a ghost to come into the light, out of the shadows, and we captured him. But the mistake we made was letting him continue breathing.
Javier's voice dropped, each word resonating with clarity.
So, today, in this room, we make a plan to end him. Yesterday, thanks to Amelia's bravery and the swift actions of those working with us, we were able to catch Phantom, and that was a huge win. We got a ghost to come into the light, out of the shadows, and we captured him. But the mistake we made was letting him continue breathing.
Javier's voice dropped, each word resonating with clarity.
So, today, in this room, we make a plan to end him.
Javier went over to a standing whiteboard, took a marker in his hand, and rolled between his fingers, thinking. He turned and looked at all the faces in the room, watching him expectantly, then turned back to the whiteboard and stared up at it. But inside his head, his mind was chaotic and roaring like the blazing wreckage of the IIB headquarters. He tried to form words, but all he saw was fire. He gave a tense exhale, put the marker down on the table, then turned to the group with an unreadable gaze.
Excuse me,
He said, then went over to the armchair, shrugged off his suit jacket, neatly laid it down on the cushion, then dutifully rolled up each of his crisp white sleeves before taking off his tie, which he also laid neatly over his jacket. Javier then scanned the room, looking around for something, then suddenly locked his gaze on his study's fireplace. He strode over to it, then picked up one of the long iron fireplace pokers and held it in his hand. And with that, he turned and strode right out the door, leaving the rest of the room behind and stumped. Carmen and Octavio made eye contact, wondering what had just happened as they heard Javier walk down the stairs and out the front door. Octavio leaned in.
Should someone follow him?
Carmen pressed her lips into a line.
Let's just give him a second. He'll be back.
Seconds later, Javier marched out of the villa, made his way around the side of the house, and crossed the gardens quickly with purpose, his hand clenching the fire poker at his side. He passed the reflecting pool and continued until he spotted his destination ahead, the storage shed. The same one Felipe led Amelia, Max, and Carmen to, back when he coached them through his process for releasing his demons. When Javier entered the shed, his eyes scanned the leftover chaos from the Calderon family's makeshift rage room from days earlier. Jagged shards of glass and porcelain were still littered on the floor from shattered plates and mirrors. Javier rolled back his shoulders, then stretched his neck with a slow tilt. His gaze landed on a retro, boxy RCA television resting near a pile of tangled cords. He gave it a tap with the tip of the fireplace poker, then drew the poker back like a baseball bat and swung. When he bashed the TV with the metal rod, it cracked and sent an explosion of plastic shrapnel across the room. Javier exhaled sharply, then moved through the room like a thunderstorm, swinging the poker again and again, smashing a lamp, the side of a shelving unit, a standing mirror. Then he went after a cracked stereo, a forgotten blender. One by one, he obliterated them. When he finally stopped, he let the poker slip from his fingers and landed on the concrete floor with a metallic clank. Javier now stood in the center of the silent room, his chest heaving, sweat glistening on his brow. Just then, he then turned to see Amelia standing in the doorway. She pressed her lips into a line, her eyes filled with both understanding and concern. She held a small first aid kit and a towel. Wordlessly, she stepped toward him, unscrewed a water bottle and poured it onto the towel, then pressed it gently to his face. She wiped his brow, his temple, and then down to his neck. "Feel better?" she asked softly. Javier gave a nod, still catching his breath.
I have to give Felipe some credit. That was incredible. Amazingly effective.
Amelia gave a small smile. "Right? See? I told you." She took his hands and gently turned them over. The skin along his palms was raw, scraped, and bleeding in spots. She cleaned each wound with care, one by one. She pressed tiny band-aids to each cut, then with the softest touch, kissed the center of each palm. They sat down together on an old love seat in silence. Javier finally spoke.
"I bragged about you to Phantom."
Amelia turned to him, surprised.
"I told him you were brilliant,"
he continued.
"and then I told him you aren't his. He's not your father."
"And what did he say?"
"He vowed to end us."
She studied him, her throat tightening. Then she shook her head, resolute. "He won't end us, Javi. We already got him once. We'll do it again." He nodded, slow and silent. She kissed his cheek. "Ready to go back inside?" He met her eyes.
"Come with me. You're the only person in the history of time who's ever taken Phantom down. You deserve to sit in with the task force, especially since you spent time face to face with him and he spoke to you. You know him in a way none of us do. That kind of insight is invaluable."
Amelia hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, I'll join the meeting. It'll help me feel less anxious, more proactive." Together, they stepped through the busted glass and bent metal, heading out of the shed and back over to the villa. When Javier and Amelia rounded the corner of the villa, they passed a few cars parked in their driveway when they caught sight of movement inside one of the cars. As they got closer, they realized there was a familiar face sitting in the passenger side of a small Prius. Thomas Flores. He was reclined in the seat, wearing nothing but a pair of swim trunks and a half-zipped beach hoodie, looking very much like a golden retriever who was left behind in the car by his owner during a grocery run. Thomas gave them a cheery wave from inside the compact vehicle, foot propped up on the dashboard. Amelia blinked. "Is that Thomas?"
"Of course it is."
They walked over to the car, and Thomas rolled the window down.
"Hey, besties."
Javier crossed his arms.
"What the hell are you doing in a parked car in our driveway? We're in the middle of a security lockdown, and one might mistake this behavior as suspicious lurking."
Thomas raised both hands.
"Easy, Prince. I'm just impatiently waiting for Nadia. She and I were headed to the beach where she got the call about Phantom's little jailbreak. Since we were just a few blocks from the villa, she thought it'd be easier if I waited here in the car
Well, she popped in for your impromptu task force meeting. Amelia's brow tugged together in surprise. You were going to have a beach day with Dr. De La Cruz? Thomas grinned proudly. Impressed. She's actually pretty cool, isn't she? Amelia chuckled, still pleasantly stunned. Very impressed. She's more than cool, Thomas. She's incredibly smart and accomplished. Javier squinted, unbelieving. I thought she despises you. I believe she used the word hate several times. Thomas arrogantly raised his chin. Yes, well, our current status falls somewhere between friends and hate, with a dash of spice. Hot spice. Javier cringed in displeasure. We should get back inside, and I'm seriously questioning Dr. De La Cruz's judgment after this. They turned to go when Thomas leaned out the window and whined. Wait. Can I please come inside the house? This mini little car of hers is made for elves. My knees are touching my chest, and the busted AC just feels like warm breath in my face. Javier didn't even slow down. No, a classified meeting is taking place inside. No distractions or eavesdroppers allowed. Thomas groaned and slumped back in his seat. Amelia shot him a quick, apologetic smile before following Javier up the front steps. When Javier returned to the study, the Royal Task Force was still there, right where he had left them. Victor, Carmen, Octavio, Nadia, all scattered around the room, sipping fresh coffee and picking at snacks Mr. Grant had neatly laid out on a tray. Carmen glanced up from her seat and smirked. Rough day to be a fireplace poker. Javier gave her a dry look as he stepped fully into the room. You have no idea. Amelia entered just behind him, and Javier nodded toward her. Amelia is going to join us today. The others offered quiet nods of greeting as she took a seat. Javier stepped toward the center of the room and faced the group, his voice steadier now, his eyes clear and focused after his anger management session in the shed. Okay, let's take it from the top. We're here to put an end to Phantom once and for all. And we're going to start with this. He reached out and dropped a small metal canister on the table, no bigger than a fist. Everyone's eyes fell on it with intrigue. It was one of the gas bombs that Phantom's men had used at the amusement park. The re-emergence of Benjamin's zombie drug. Moments before the princes returned to the study, while Javier disappeared into the villa's garden with a fire poker in his hands and a storm behind his eyes, Carmen had stepped out into the hallway alone to make a call. For a while, she just stared down at her phone as her thumb hovered over a number she hadn't dialed in years, but still knew by heart. Across town, Felipe had just returned to his SUV and was wiping the last traces of the soot from his hands with a rag. He had just walked away from a very literal cover-up after ditching 3 dead bodies in the IIB building fire when a familiar sound he hadn't heard in years chimed through his car.
It's me, Fee. Pick up. I know you hear me.
The sound hit him like a ghost in broad daylight. It was that old blue Nokia that he had pulled out of retirement and put inside his pocket today. And though he hadn't heard that personalized ringtone in a long time, he never once got rid of it since the day Luna Delgado recorded it herself as a joke. One of those silly things girlfriends and boyfriends do to prank each other. But Felipe ended up loving the sound of her voice so much that he never let her change it back. And once their relationship shattered, he couldn't bring himself to throw the phone away. Felipe pressed it to his ear and smirked. Miss me already?
I only just activated this phone. Seems someone was eager to dial me.
From the other end, Carmen's voice dropped a note softer.
How did your cleanup job go? Is everything good?
Felipe glanced at the smoke still curling into the skyline behind him.
It's done.
Hearing his voice, calm and unhurt, Carmen relaxed her shoulders in relief and gave a gentle exhale.
I'm heading over to the villa now. See you in a few.
He hung up, and Carmen softly smiled to herself, happy to once again have the ability to reach him with the push of a button and check if he's okay. Back in the present, Javier stepped toward the center of the study and faced the group.
Okay, let's take it from the top. We're here to put an end to Phantom once and for all. And we're going to start with this.
He reached out and dropped a small metal canister on the table. It was one of the gas bombs that Phantom's men had used at the amusement park, filled with a new form of Benjamin's zombie drug. Before anyone could respond, a knock sounded from the doorframe. The room turned to see someone new standing in the doorframe. Felipe Fierro.
Nice of you to join us.
Javier greeted, and then turned to Nadia and Octavio, gesturing toward Nightblade.
This is Felipe. He's been working with us on this as a secret consultant.
Felipe offered a tight smile.
Secret being the key word. So if anyone asks, you never saw me here.
He crossed the room and dropped into an open seat, nodding toward Carmen and flashing her a subtle wink.
So, what did I miss?
Javier didn't skip a beat.
Not much, actually. We've just started.
He picked up the canister and tossed it underhand to Felipe. Felipe caught it easily. His expression shifted the second he recognized it.
This bloody drug is a nuisance,
he muttered, frowning at the canister in his hand.
Because of it, Carmen nearly drowned herself on a rapids ride.
Carmen's jaw clenched.
It's no joke. I had no control over what I was doing.
Until my strong lips saved the day.
Felipe muttered shamelessly, and Carmen shot him a glare to behave. Ignoring Felipe, Javier went on.
This drug is insidious and not to be taken lightly. That's why it's priority number 1. At the amusement park, we got a sneak preview of how Phantom plans to weaponize the zombie gas against us. Unfortunately, this drug has become a combat tool. It's like a smoke bomb laced with psychological warfare. One hit, and you become someone else's puppet. It's clear that Phantom plans for this gas to be the star of their attack on us. So, we need to come up with a way to counter this stuff, or defend against it.
Javier looked around the room.
Phantom is a careful, deliberate planner. So, my best guess is that once he recovers from today, he'll want to proceed with his plan to ambush our wedding reception. He'll want to see out his holy mission, especially after he and I shared some pretty heated words in the interrogation room today.
Javier stepped closer to Felipe and asked,
Can you reach out to your contacts over in Phantom's camp and confirm whether the plan to attack our wedding is still in motion?
Felipe nodded.
Yeah, I'll put the feelers out now and see what they say.
Felipe looked down and fired off a text to Paloma. Just then, Carmen reached across the table and picked up the small metal canister. Her fingers traced the edges of it, studying the thing.
So, how exactly do we guard ourselves against this crap? If we give the entire wedding party gas masks, that's likely to give away our secret trap. Carmen's right. A wedding full of gas masks will instantly rob us of the element of surprise. And masks are useless if they get cracked or ripped off.
Javier leaned against the table with his arms crossed, his jaw tense. Carmen squinted.
So, what's the play? Now that Phantom's team has stabilized the formula and found a way to distribute the drug in gas form, it can inflict a wide range of damage in a flash. One cloud of this stuff can infect an entire squad in seconds. So, really what we need to find is a way to counter the drug's effects or make ourselves immune, if that's even possible.
After a beat, Nadia raised a brow.
You mean, like, a counter-agent?
Javier nodded.
A chemical override, something that kills the compound on contact or renders it useless once inhaled.
He turned to Felipe again.
DuPont's lab had more than one chemist working for them. If we can track down someone else who helped develop the original zombie drug, maybe they can help us formulate an antidote.
Amelia smiled.
If that was possible, we'd flip the whole game on them.
Victor nodded.
So, even if Phantom showed up and showered an entire crate of zombie drug over the wedding party, it'd be useless.
Javier took a step forward.
Exactly. If that fucker thinks this drug is his golden weapon, we're going to make sure it's a dud by the time he pulls the trigger on it.
Felipe gave a crooked smile.
All right, then. Let's go find ourselves a traitorous scientist to whip us up an antidote.
Javier nodded and turned to Victor.
Let's call Barry in and see if he knows how we can dig up old DuPont records to find out what scientists worked in that lab.
Right away, sir.
Meanwhile, back in Vera's apartment, Phantom lay propped against the pillows, his left eye bandaged, skin slick with sweat. Vera sat stiffly at the edge of the bed, trying to monitor his vitals. She'd done her best to treat Phantom's shot to the eye and gave him meds for the pain he must be in. Even though, across the sheets, Phantom kept the gun loosely aimed at her, his finger always near the trigger. Just then, there was a loud knock on her front door. Vera jolted upright, her eyes shot to the hallway. Phantom's voice cut through the air, sharp with suspicion.
Who is that? Are you expecting someone?
She shook her head fast.
No, I swear, I'm not expecting anyone. I don't know who that could be.
Then ignore it.
He ordered, tightening his grip on the weapon.
Don't move. They'll go away.
The knocking continued, louder now. After a minute, silence. Phantom leaned back against the pillows with a wince and smirked.
See? They left.
But a few seconds later, they heard the knocking again. These people were not going to go away. Just then, there was a loud bang. It was the sound of someone kicking open her front door. After hearing a loud knock on her front door, Vera jolted upright.
Who is that? Are you expecting anyone?
No, I swear, I'm not expecting anyone. I don't know who that could be.
Then ignore it. Don't move. They'll go away.
After a minute, silence.
See? They left.
But he had spoken too soon. The knocking returned. It seemed these people were not going to go away, which was soon made evident when a very loud crack sounded through the apartment. That was the sound of someone kicking open her front door. Vera stiffened, alarmed. Phantom's arm shot out, gun raised toward her.
Who the hell is that? What's going on?
She shook her head quickly, her breath catching.
I swear, I have no idea.
Meanwhile, they heard the heavy steps of 2 men enter Vera's apartment and walk around. Then, they heard the loud rustle and crash of drawers being opened and ransacked. Belongings were being thrown about. It sounded like someone was out there tearing up Vera's entire apartment. Phantom's eyes narrowed.
Are you seriously being robbed right now? What on earth is going on out there?
Vera shook her head, scared. She actually did have one guess as to what or who it could be, but she really hoped she wasn't right. With a grunt, Phantom pushed himself up from the bed. His head was a little fuzzy, and he was not at 100% strength from the shot, but he was stable enough to walk and talk. With his gun drawn, Phantom exited the bedroom and headed down the hallway. When Phantom calmly strolled into the living room, he held his gun drawn before him. Out there, he spotted 2 thick-set men rifling through drawers and tossing Vera's belongings around like trash. Unfazed, Phantom raised his weapon.
Can I help you, gentlemen?
The thugs whirled around and raised their pistols in sync, but Phantom didn't flinch. Zeke, the taller of the 2 men, snapped at him.
Where's Vera? We're not here for you, ma'am.
Phantom's voice came out calm and cold.
Vera? What do you want with Vera?
Zeke snarled.
Her husband owes us $800,000, so she needs to pay up.
Phantom's brow lifted.
Husband?
Unrushed, Lazaro turned his head toward the hallway and called out.
Vera, come here, please.
Just then, she appeared behind him in the hallway, tense, heart pounding.
These men say your husband owes them $800,000.
Phantom told her.
And that you need to pay up.
Vera's jaw tightened.
I haven't seen Cody in 3 years, and I had no idea he was going to steal your stash for the cash. That was on him, not me, so please, just let me live in peace. I want nothing to do with him or his mess.
Cody was Vera's ex, Sonny's dad, and was a former member of the Delta Rangers. That is, until he decided to steal a shipment of their pills and go rogue. He was Vera's high school sweetheart, but he was no good, and she'd worked hard to finally take Sonny and leave him to start over for good. But his debts and his problems always managed to find her. This was the reason she and Sonny had been forced to move so much over the past few years. How did these men always manage to hunt her down? Zeke snarled.
He took a shipment worth $800,000 and was supposed to sell it and bring back the dough. But he ran off and never came back. So until he turns up with our money, his debt is his family's debt. And you're his family.
You're insane if you think I have that kind of money, and even if I did, like I said, Cody's sins aren't mine. He acted alone.
The second man grinned.
If you can't pay up, then we'll just have to take something else to compensate for it.
Zeke smirked.
You and Cody have a daughter, right? The going rate for a kid on the black market is nearly $1 million. So maybe we'll just take Cody's kid to sell her and call it square.
Vera's eyes burned with fury.
You are not going near my daughter, not while I'm breathing.
Zeke took a step closer.
That can be changed.
But before anyone could make a move, Phantom's voice cut through the tension like a knife, smooth, sly, and chilling.
Gentlemen, none of that will be necessary,
he said with a devilish smile. Lazaro stepped forward, one hand still gripping his pistol, the other relaxed by his side.
I I will buy her husband's debt,
he said casually. The men blinked. Vera's eyes widened. Zeke let out a sharp laugh.
Who the hell are you, moneybags? Am I really supposed to believe you got 800 grand just lying around and that you're willing to hand it over to us?
Phantom arched a brow.
I am someone with an abundance of resources, so if you're smart, and if you really want your money, you'll accept.
He took another step forward, gaze unwavering.
It'll be the easiest 800K you've ever collected.
Zeke's grin faded slightly as suspicion crept in.
How? When?
He asked. Phantom shrugged.
I can have the cash delivered to you in under an hour.
He turned toward Vera.
That is, if Vera accepts my offer.
Vera's pulse hammered in her ears.
Vera, dear, who would you rather be indebted to?
Phantom murmured.
The men threatening to sell your daughter on the black market, or me?
Vera stared at Phantom, surprised and wary of his offer. She knew that if this fake doctor paid off Cody's debt, it would come to her at a price. But in that moment, she was desperate to get out of debt with the men who were threatening to take her daughter. Out of choices, Vera gave the smallest nod. I accept your offer. Zeke exchanged a glance with his partner, then looked back at Lazaro.
All right,
He said slowly.
we can wait around for you to get us our cash.
He stepped forward, his tone ice cold.
What? If you're screwing with us, if you're lying or stalling or wasting our time, we'll shoot you both. Right here. No questions asked.
Phantom grinned like he'd just been complimented.
Wonderful. Allow me to make a call.
He said. He lifted the new phone Isaiah gave him and dialed Paloma. When the line picked up, his voice turned sharp and commanding.
Paloma, I need you to access the vault. Bring me 800,000 in cash, bagged. You'll find the address in your texts. I'll expect you here within the hour.
Phantom lowered the phone and smiled to himself. Zeke narrowed his eyes but said nothing. Meanwhile, back in the villa, the Royal Murders Task Force was winding down their meeting when Felipe's phone buzzed. Felipe glanced at the screen, then raised his eyebrows. It was a text from Paloma, who was currently busy doing all sorts of damage control, between Phantom's escape and his request for nearly $1 million in cash.
Paloma just replied to my request for an update on Phantom's plan. She sent me a link for a video chat. It's scheduled for later today.
Javier gave a sharp nod.
Great. We can do what we did for your last call with Phantom. You can take the meeting from here so that Carmen, Amelia, and I can listen in nearby and run interference as needed.
Sure thing, Prince Charming. Sounds like a plan. You, me, Phantom, and a Zoom call. It'll be a party.
Back in Vera's kitchen, the next hour passed like a blade pressed to Vera's throat. She, Phantom, and the 2 Delta Rangers sat around her kitchen table in brittle silence while they waited for Paloma to arrive with the cash. No one spoke or moved. The only sound was the low tick of her wall clock and the occasional shift of weight as one of the thugs adjusted his gun belt. Finally, there was a knock on the door. Everyone stiffened. Phantom stood. When he opened the door, Paloma stood on the other side, cool as steel, with a suitcase in hand. She stepped inside and placed it on the kitchen table with a soft thud. Inside the suitcase, rows of stacked bills stared back at them, tightly packed and banded. The Delta Rangers stared at the sight in disbelief. It really was $80K in cold, hard cash. Zeke let out a breathless laugh, wide-eyed.
Damn, looks like we're in business.
He reached out and shook Phantom's hand with both of his.
It was nice doing business with a one-eyed pirate,
he added with a smirk. And just like that, they were gone. Phantom turned to Vera, watching her reaction.
I don't get a thank you,
he said, voice low and self-satisfied.
I just saved your daughter from being sold into child slavery. In my book, that's no small feat.
Vera's stomach twisted. She didn't believe for a second that he had done this out of the goodness of his heart. She gave a cold, clipped, "Thank you," then locked eyes with him. "But, in my experience, any time a man is generous with me, it's for a reason," she said, voice steady. Despite the churn in her gut, her gaze didn't waver. "So, what is it that you want in return, then?"